BBC Radio Cambridgeshire. It's 11 minutes past 11, Sunday morning. My name's Mike Rummel. Good morning to you. I was just talking off air to our next guest in the studio. Joins us for the first time, so we do welcome Mili Ponce to the studio, social media expert, founder of Social Media Frontiers.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to be in your programme.
That's okay, no problem at all. We social media is something that I like to talk about quite a bit on the show, because I think it's not particularly new, but it's now being used more than ever before. And I read some fascinating statistics a couple of weeks ago about the amount of Facebook users there are in the world now. It's incredible. Now, you obviously, social media expert, a few topics we're going to talk about today, and one of them I think is quite interesting, is sort of employment stroke social media, the working world, and how you can be affected by your social media, how people that run businesses can use social media. Let's talk first about something that's quite apt, about how your boss is almost allowed to look at your Facebook account, aren't they? They're allowed to look at what you're putting on Twitter and possibly use it against you.
Yes, I mean, your boss is allowed to look at your Facebook. They cannot force you to show what is in your Facebook, but if they can easily find it, then they're allowed to. So that's something that will not break the law.
And it's what's interesting about this is that I don't think people realise is that if you are an employee of a company and you are to, I mean, many years ago, you have a bad day in the office, you go down a pub, and you probably sit next to some bloke at a bar, and you tell him that your boss is an idiot and you hate working for your job because you've had a bad day. These days, I think we use Facebook, Twitter as that pub, as that place to sound off. But if I was to put on my Facebook status when I get home today, I didn't like the show today, my boss named him, and it was quite derogatory about them, I could face disciplinary action for that, couldn't I?
Yes, that will depend on the policies of the company.
Yes,
though.
Of course.
So, depending on the policies of the company, you could be breaking that rules by just posting. I mean, I was reading in the news some waitress, she was working in a well-known restaurant, and she had a bad day, and she just wrote in her Facebook about how bad day it was, and she wrote about not just customers but colleagues, and even though she didn't put names, it reflects the organization of the company.
Right. So
it affects directly the reputation of that company. So she actually not just lost her job, but she was taken to court.
Why do you think people do that? Do you think it's because people don't understand just how public Facebook, Twitter actually is?
Yes, because I think they, as soon as they see that their posts are not public, because you can choose to make it public or not public, you sometimes forget that your friends might be friends of your colleagues or even your colleagues. And even if you don't have anybody within your job, your friends might know somebody there. So as soon as they like a picture, they like your post, that will be shared in the timeline. So everybody else will be aware of it.
So you just have to be really careful what you put, don't you? Would you say that was a rule to most people? Be careful what you write.
Keep in mind when you write that your boss might read that.
Yeah.
Keep in mind.
I guess if you wouldn't say it to your boss or your mum, don't put it. Is that
exactly?
I think it's probably...
Some people don't invite their mother to Facebook.
Really? Oh my word! Talk about going the flip side on a positive way. Businesses that can now use Facebook, Twitter, and stuff for all sorts of reasons, can't they? Especially small businesses. For advertising, I guess, for finding people for employment.
For employment is a very good tool, LinkedIn and Facebook. In LinkedIn, you can see the CV pretty much of the people that are in a specific industry as well, so you don't have to go through a lot of CVs. And in Facebook, it's very powerful because if you already have a following, if you have an opening position, then you can share that on your Facebook, and the people that have already following you might have or might know somebody that can apply for that job.
Yeah.
So it makes it cheaper for startups to use social media instead of using agencies. I mean, how many startups can really afford an agency?
Yeah, it's true, because the recruitment agencies, cost a lot of money. They do. They do cost a lot of cash, and if you can find someone just by putting something on Facebook, it's a brilliant way to do it. And let's talk a bit about the other subject as well that you've come in today to talk about the way we sort of consume news, I suppose. This is quite interesting, isn't it? You mentioned off air about The Guardian.
Yes, The Guardian was saying that they're now going to expand internationally. And this is due to what they did is they had a Twitter account. They had a lot of interaction on Twitter. They have been implementing strategies on Twitter in a way that they have become well-known now worldwide. So now print press can become worldwide known and not just locally as they used to be. So this is a great opportunity for print press. And at the same time, The Guardian was saying that 10% of the traffic coming to The Guardian, to the actual Guardian online, comes from Twitter, because they put the breaking news in Twitter first, then The Guardian comes out in the morning. But people already read the breaking news, they come to the website, so they have seen an increase on the traffic thanks to Twitter, apart from the opportunity to expand worldwide.
We must I'm going to go to the travel. When we come back, we'll talk a bit about the way we consume news now, and we'll finish that conversation off, and then we'll talk a little bit about marketing as well, because social media is being used so much by big companies, small companies, to market new products and offers and all sorts of stuff, and quite cleverly, I think, sometimes. We'll go to the travel. We'll be back in 2 seconds. So we are in the middle of a conversation with our social media expert and founder of Social Media Frontiers. It's Mili Ponce. We're talking a little bit about the social media in terms of employment, social media in terms of news. I actually have a friend who works at The Guardian, and had a beer with him a couple of weeks ago, and he was mentioning the way we consume news is changing as well, because let's just say, I don't know, for example, his example was the birth of the recent royal baby. And I said to him, what do you mean? How does that work? He said there was more people scanning Twitter and Facebook to find out when that baby was born, was it a boy or girl, what's going on, than any news website, which I find just was staggering. Is this how you, as a social media expert, is this how you consume news?
I think what is changing is that people used to trust only newspapers or news on the TV, and now people have understand how social media works. Basically, people will tweet about something happening right next to them.
Yes.
So the way breaking news can go so fast, thanks to Twitter, will never go as fast in any newspaper or news on the TV. So the trust has changed. People are trusting more what is said on social media than before. So if newspapers and news in general platforms take advantage of it, they could expand faster and easier.
Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
I think if it's controlled, it's good, but it can cause many troubles too, like the riots in London.
Yeah, very much
so. They were managed through Twitter.
Yes.
So I think in the future, some rules and laws are going to have to be put to control it. But I think if it's used right, that's the way it's going to go. People are unfortunately going to start buying more Kindles and more digital newspapers, as we can see that they're going to come soon. So the whole way how we see where we read news and where we get the news are going to change totally.
I think it's quite interesting, because I think you're right. I mean, the good side of it is you're led on a beach in Spain, and you can now have up-to-date news. Whereas 10 years ago, you'd have to go and wait for yesterday's newspaper to come into Spain. Do you understand what I mean? So yes. That's a good thing. And it's interesting you mentioned the London riots as well. I live in Enfield, which is one of the towns that was hit, and obviously on our Twitter accounts we look for things that are mentioned with Enfield, and I watched that unfold on Twitter, and then the next thing I know, there's police on horseback outside my front door. But I'm following this half an hour before on Twitter. It's staggering. It's amazing.
Well, what happened in the US with the earthquake? I don't know if anybody read it in the news. An earthquake happened in New York, and because people tweeted as it was happening, 30 seconds after it happened in a town where they knew already by 30 seconds that it was happening, so they were more prepared for the earthquake than they would have if they didn't know. This is just 30 seconds, but if you think how much you can do in 30 seconds if you knew it was going to happen, then this could even somehow potentially save lives. Yeah,
it's staggering.
Yeah,
it's mental. We'll finish off with a subject about marketing, because again, this is something I find really quite interesting, and the way companies can use social media to market products, offers, all that kind of stuff. Are more and more companies now looking to market themselves via social media rather than traditional marketing? Is that kind of the trend?
I would say from middle-sized to corporations, but small businesses are still reluctant to it.
Right.
Because they think that because they don't know how to do it, they will need to get a specialist consultancy training, and they can't afford it.
Yeah.
I think they don't realize that just by having presence on social media, you are making a difference. You can read what is happening with your competition, what your competition is doing. You can talk about what you're selling. There's so many things that you can do. But the main difference between traditional marketing and social media marketing is that in traditional marketing, you put your ad out there. It's what we call in social media passive marketing. You put your ad and you wait for people to contact you.
Yes.
Now, when you put your ad, first, it costs you a lot of money, and people are going to see it all around the streets, maybe if you put your ad in the streets or in the TV, but it's not targeted. Well, social media marketing, you don't put your ad and you wait for it. What you do is you can go and look for the people interested in what you have. In Twitter, you can contact every single user of Twitter. This is something that most people don't realize. They think they need followers. You can do social media marketing without having any followers, because you can contact every single person on Twitter. If you know how to monitor the mentioning on Twitter, you can contact specifically the people that need what you have, get in contact with them, have a relationship with them online by talking to them, sharing the things that you can solve and how the problems can be solved by the products that you have, and then creating that trust and personal level relationship with them, so they will come to your business. So the main difference is you go and you look for your market and you bring them to you. So it's a more active marketing than traditional marketing, and a lot cheaper as well.
But if you're a small business now, you mentioned it there, like small businesses might be less keen to go down that route of social media marketing because they might have to hire a consultant or an expert in. They might have to know, mightn't they? Because it's not... I mean, we all might be Twitter users and Facebook account users or whatever, but do as a normal person on the street, do I really understand how it works? Probably not. Probably
not, but to learn it won't take you that long. I mean, right now, I think one of the biggest changes in education is you pretty much can learn everything online. If you Google, you use YouTube, there is so much information online to learn. That by just implementing the basics on social media marketing, you can make a difference in your business. Now, you might need some training if you want to go into further things like making campaigns, strategies to sell a specific product, and you might need some help there. That's why companies like us exist. But it doesn't have to be expensive training. You can have some consultancy from time to time. Now, how worth it is, your sales will increase. So how worth it is to you that the sales increase.
Mili, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I think it's a great subject. If anyone wants to find out a bit more about you, they can obviously follow you on Twitter.
Yes.
What's your Twitter @thing?
Mili at SMF. Mili Ponce at SMF.
And your website?
socialmediafrontiers.com.
It's surprising that, isn't it? A social media expert's got a website and a Twitter account.
And our website, we have articles where you can learn on social media totally for free.
Fantastic stuff. Mili, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.